I started making $80,000 a month, at this point that, I can go into the millions now.
We got Mr. T. Anthony Money, and then we got Mila in the house. How do you now articulate yourself and what you do on a different basis to what the average really is?
It's just the lack of not knowing, and then you think I need $1 million to even start an investment. So it's just having that lack of resource and changing your mindset through the money blocks.
I think that, we still got the $10 to $15 an hour mentality. I didn't know it was possible. I was trying to make $60,000 a year. I didn't get it. You go get you 50 men and I go get 50 women, and I guarantee you I'll sell you.
I don't think so.
I'm telling you.
But you got to understand, this is what made me 11 million since 2019.
And
it's on paper.
Same thing.
Yeah, of course, but it's on paper. Hey guys, we realize a lot of you are coming to the page and enjoying the content, but we see a lot of you still aren't subscribed. And so if you could click that subscribe button, it'll help our channel grow and give you more episodes with a lot of amazing individuals. Yo, welcome back to another episode of Attractive Mindset. And listen, today's guest, we got some superstars in the building. We got T Money himself, Mr. T Anthony Money, and then we got Mila in the house. Welcome, guys.
Bulletproof.
Good to be
Hey.
here. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So, as y'all already know how we usually do, we find out about our guest in the same time you do. So, here we go. And so, if you had to introduce yourselves to people and what you would do at this moment, how you guys would, how would you introduce yourself?
Well, first of all, we're the Bulletproof Entrepreneurs. We've been having this platform now for about 6 months. I'm a business coach for the last 10 or 15 years. So, once I left the industry of network marketing, I decided to go out there and start helping entrepreneurs build businesses, scale businesses, make sure their business is protected, and also put them in a situation to where, they can actually, build the business, gain profit, and also, become a coach and teach people what they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. So I'm Mila, and how I got started 10 years ago in the healthcare field. I had a home care agency, ran that for 6 years, home care and transportation, revenued it to about $3 million a year.
Ooh.
Then COVID hit. Partners, we kind of had to dissolve a business, had to rebuild myself, start over with credit, went completely broke, and built myself back up. So that's what made me want to get with T Money, which we had other businesses in life. I wanted to get with him because he was really good at coaching, and he coached me before in life. So I was like, who should I basically get? And I had another business idea, and I was like, you know what? He's so good and cold at marketing. Let me bring him on. I want to partner with him. And I reached out to him, and he was like, yeah. But then we talked about our story so much that he like, we going to do this brick and mortar business, but we got to help other people, because we've been through ups and downs. We got to help them bulletproof their business. So let's come out with something that we hope entrepreneurs, start and not just have a business as a hobby.
So y'all just friends?
We're cousins, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
First cousins.
Okay. What's the significance of being a first cousin?
I mean, your first cousins, where we come
Cousin.
from. Yeah, where we come from in Ohio, it's like your brothers and sisters,
Okay.
We all slept in the same beds, ate at the same dinner table, fussed and fight together, all that good stuff.
Okay. So business is family run.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. So y'all both from Ohio originally?
Originally, yeah, Dayton, Ohio.
And
Okay.
I live in Houston, Texas now, but yep.
Okay.
Ohio.
I reside in Atlanta, been there for about 20 years.
Okay, cool. So I want to go back a little bit. We can start with you, T. Anthony.
Okay.
And
cool.
Growing up in Ohio, what was life like for you?
Well, growing up in Ohio for me, I grew up in the late 80s and 90s, and it was a different time back then. I come from a real crazy family. So my family was in the streets and stuff like that. So I seen a lot of money growing up, and I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do business too. I just didn't want to do it that way.
Okay.
So I finished in performing arts school, started doing music,
Okay.
Singing, rapping, producing for other people. Moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and, I found my people in Atlanta, Georgia. When I say people, I mean your tribe.
What triggered the move?
I mean, I come from a smaller city.
Okay.
In the mindset of a smaller city, it may not be conducive to somebody with a creative mind like mine. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm T. Anthony Money, and I'm one of the Bulletproof Entrepreneurs. Have you ever thought about starting a business? Or maybe you already started a business and you're trying to scale the business, or maybe you got a hobby and you just want to turn it into a business. Guess what? We have a free community where we teach entrepreneurs how to set the business up, how to get the business funded, how to brand and market it, and also how to scale. If you would like to join our free community, click the link below. So I got to go somewhere and find my place and, maybe one day bring something back.
Gotcha.
So that's what made me, make the transition to Atlanta, because at the time music was booming. It was close enough for me to still drive up and down the highway to see my family. And to me, it's the right space for, where a Black man should be at if you really want to build some business.
Facts.
Wakanda.
Oh, yeah.
Facts.
So how I got into entrepreneurship, I was 12 years old, and one of the church ladies, she started taking us around to different suburbs and neighborhoods selling candy one summer. And I asked my mom, could I do it? First, she was reluctant because my mom worked 2 jobs. She was always at work. She was never at home. She's like, you got to watch your brothers and sisters. But, I begged and begged and begged, and she allowed me to do it.
And father figure?
Huh?
Father figure?
My stepfather was around.
Okay.
At that time.
Okay.
My mom went from being married to being single parent. So, but at that time he was around. I was about 11 or 12 years old. And so we started selling candy all summer. By the end of the summer, I made a lot of money. As a 12-year-old, I sold more candy than anybody else, including the people who got us started in it. So I knew that one day I probably could run a business.
Okay.
So entrepreneurship was always in me, always in my heart. And when I moved to Atlanta, I started doing collections. Singing, rapping, producing on the side, but my job was in collections. So I learned how to sell.
So collections in terms of, I'm thinking immediately.
Bill collector.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's huge in Atlanta.
Really?
Right? So if you want to make 20, back then in the early 2000s, if you want to make $20 an hour plus commission, that was the move.
So you did it from like a corporate standpoint, or companies just like, hey, these people owe us money. We need you to go get it.
No, we did it from a corporate standpoint. I used to work for a company called NCO. It's had a Department of Education.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So we did it from a company, corporate aspect, but it was still a dog world in collections.
Gotcha.
We used to say some crazy things back then.
I can imagine.
To get people to pay their bills. So, I felt like I was good at sales and I was good at collecting money, and those are the opposite of each other.
Yeah.
Somebody gonna sell the product to you, but then they got to collect the money from you. So I was good at that, and I made huge bonus checks. And then when that industry started going kind of sour, I got introduced to network marketing, and I became a top income earner in that industry. So not tooting my own horn or nothing, but whatever I put my mind to, I'm gonna be at the top of something.
I feel that.
You know what I'm saying? So, but when COVID hit, I said it's time to transition. I've been doing network marketing. I had these big teams. I done made a lot of money, made $1 million. My last run, and I said, well, what am I gonna do next? I've learned all these skills. I've coached all these people for years, but I'm still in a company to where they're paying me. It's time for me to actually go out there and pay myself.
Facts.
And that's how we came up with the Bulletproof Entrepreneur.
Okay. So I'm gonna pause you right there.
Oh yeah.
So Myla, now your perspective growing up in Ohio, because I know as a female, life is a little different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I even see that just with my 2 kids and why I moved from Ohio. I seen my daughter could probably make it, and I was like, I got to get my son out of here. But so I went back and forth from Ohio to Atlanta. So my mother moved to Atlanta when I was about 5.
Okay.
And from 5 to 13, we stayed there. But then, so my teenage years and the years that I remember was in Ohio, where I gathered friends and all of that cool stuff. So I was coming out of the area where all the family members were working at General Motors, NCR, all the big plants. And,
gotcha.
If your family worked there, then
they get money.
They get money. And then the other side, like he said, of our family is, there's consumers. So people that work at General Motors generally are in the union, and the union is saving them, and you got the drug dealers. So it was just money in Ohio, Dayton, Ohio at the time. It was very clean, a place that you would want to raise your kids. At that time, I'm sure 20, 30 years back when they moved there, but it was still rather clean. And when I think about it now, I think we was a little bit arrogant.
Wow.
You know, we had everything. You know, your grandfather, you know, whoever, we got dental, we had everything. So
Mhm.
we walked the streets, everybody watched you. It just, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a bad place. It looked different now than 25 years ago.
Mm.
But you know, growing up there wasn't bad. Um, by the time I hit 18, 19, I had a child. So I was at that point, I was like, okay, this kid depends on me, and what do I give it? That was my son. I didn't have an idea. I just worked in nursing homes. I always work with people. So I believe my love language is service. I worked with developmental disability, vulnerable adults, just anything that was servitude to people, but a lot of nursing homes and MRDDs. So I didn't know what entrepreneur was. I just thought hustle. I have tried to hustle. I bake cakes. I sold girdles. He would call me and I would always sign up with his network marketing, but I didn't know what he was talking about. I really didn't. I'm like, I don't know, I'm selling shakes now. But he was so far from me, you know, he was like, I'll get back to her later. But I was always like an agent in anything that he did. And I didn't, you know. So I started understanding what an entrepreneur was, but I still didn't know. I was like, I can make some money off of this, but not really knowing. Till my grandfather took sick. And I still didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I just wanted to take care of him.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to see him go to a nursing home because I took care of a lot of other people's family members. So me and 2 other young ladies got together and we opened up an adult care facility. And we put other mental health and addiction clients in the house with my grandfather, which he was my first client. The business was sinking. So we was like, we ain't making no money. We don't understand because we had ignorant bliss. We just was going into stuff. So that's how I see success anyways. You know, do what you want and the money will follow. Then we end up opening a home care agency, which that was sending our employees out to the client's home. So my grandfather was the adult care facility. And then I think we started catching our niche by sending them out. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurship.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you
journey.
mentioned earlier on, it was kind of I got a little confused. You said Dayton was a good place to grow up. You had a lot of different stuff, but then you said, I got to get my son out of here.
Oh, because once all those factories and stuff died in early 2000s, you know, factories left. It kind of started looking, Dayton, Toledo, and Detroit all mimic each other. Like they all start looking alike. And we're home of, you know, Ford, Auto, General Motors, all that stuff. So once that stuff started leaving, going across seas and different things like that, it just started tearing up the city. I mean, we had so many businesses. And them businesses can barely survive nowadays. And I'm thinking to myself, like, it seemed like it was less people in the city 20 years ago than it is now.
Did y'all have like a diverse community out there, or was it
Actually,
like Black centered?
Actually, Dayton is like, Dayton is a very huge Black population. You know, they like 50% African American.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, 50% white. Ain't no in between.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You just probably stayed on 2 different sides. And that, to be honest, if you stayed across we got a river. So if you stayed across it, it looked identical. Even now with, you know, the hardship that's come, it still look identical as it did when we was younger. But I mean, we had everything on our side of the town.
Wow.
Okay. Black businesses, like, I mean, everything. Like, you know, you can actually go in Dayton and see the Black people living in big houses and stuff. So some people grew up in their cities and they when they seen big houses and stuff, they thought that, you know, those were for the Caucasians. Our perspective was a little different in Dayton. We stayed in some huge houses that most people would be like, this don't make sense. You know, but we seen that growing up. So, you know, like she said, our grandfathers and them was in General Motors. They had money, they had juke joints, they had all type of stuff going on. So we was never starved. Like, you know, we wasn't suburban, we was definitely city. Yeah. But we was definitely, you know, hood rich.
Okay.
Yeah,
you know.
Historical homes where you can hide in places, all type of stuff. You know, it was a lot of fun to me than what I could see, you know, older me. I'm like, ooh, just going into them. I'm like, man, these neighborhoods was so pretty. I used to walk just to look at the houses, like the structure of the houses and stuff. Now I wouldn't catch myself.
Wow. Okay. it's a big, it's a transition. So before I even continue on the journey story, you know, a question that makes me think: do y'all think now is a different time to be an entrepreneur, a successful Black individual versus back then?
Yeah, the times have definitely changed. I was just having a conversation with her and another person the other day, and I said, people say, I always hear on every show, everything, the Black people doing bad, this, that, we don't have nothing. But what those people fail to realize, that's all a lie.
Mm.
That's all a lie. The time 50 years ago was worse for Black people than it is right now.
Facts.
So you got to think about it. My generation has produced more millionaires than any other generation before me.
Mm-hmm.
Black people.
Yeah.
This is the first time you see in the multitude of billionaires of Black people.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say that we're doing so bad, I be asking them, well, what do you call 50, 60, and 70 years ago?
Yeah.
It's true.
We're not doing nowhere near as bad as people think that we're doing, because if you look at the history, 400 years of oppression, right? We the only group of people that's been done like that and still came out, and we dominate everything and every major culture and globally. The whole world follows us.
Mm-hmm.
What other culture came from that type of oppression and stuff like that and became what we are?
Very true.
And I think even our grandfathers and our grandparents and stuff, they all had it in them too. It was just the resources that was lacking. And every time somebody, got in the mix, it was something there to hold them back. But they had the same thing. My grandfather had 19 houses, but he might not have had the mentorship or whatever to where they start, he didn't know how to sustain that. But obviously his General Motor and his what you call it, being in the union and stuff helped him get those things. It's just how to sustain it. So we watched him lose it as well.
Mm. That's
so I think that, this is the time for Black people to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
We've seen what happens to us in corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
Just 3 years ago, we was allowed to wear our hair how we want to be in corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
So you just think about that. Just 3 years ago, we're not talking about a couple decades, just 3 years ago.
He's not lying, because my partners, when I got this, they was like, how are we going to get clients? And I'm like, they had tattoos and everything. The very clients that we getting, they culture had tattoos on their face and everything. And you telling me, but they were worried about it. It was like, I thought that was fake. I said, no.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the times is better. In my point, do we still have some problems that we face? Of course, but you got to give Black people time. We are still 400 years behind other people. But we're right where we're supposed to be.
100%.
Whether these people want to believe it or not, you can listen to the media. The media portraying a picture. They're giving you an image.
100%.
But, those of us out here who really getting it, we know the truth.
And so, that raises a question with me, because we can go on certain websites and there's like analytical statistical data, and, SSA.gov, Social Security Administration is one of the main ones, where on their website, as of 2023, I believe the 2024 numbers are released now, but as of September 2023, the median for the Black individual was only $41,600 per year. And so, I understand our kind of industry where, I've had months where I've made that, and plus how do you now articulate yourself and what you do on a different basis to what the average really is? Because they're not understanding it on that level. What you can do in a month's time, they're doing in a year's time. So how do you set your business up to articulate that?
Well,
it's the mindset first,
it's
because of the money blocks.
Limited beliefs.
So, if there is information pushed out there on us for years about, our money go towards clothes, towards different stuff. And that's true, but it's because we don't know that we can start investment accounts. We don't know to have a high yield checkings account or savings account. Like, it's just the lack of not knowing, and then thinking that you need to, compound interest really works, but you think I need $1 million to even start an investment. You know what I'm saying? So it's just having that lack of resource and changing your mindset through the money blocks.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So somebody give you a job, it's $32,000. You don't know you can make $32,000 a month.
But to answer your question, I think that, we still got the $10 to $15 an hour mentality, right? So, when I started network marketing, I came out of collections. I remember I got my first big bonus check. It was $61,000. I did that much in 1 month.
Sheesh.
And I knew that was possible at that point. But before then, I didn't know it was possible. I was trying to make $60,000 a year. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
At first, I knew I wanted a lot of money, but I didn't know how you could do it. So when I got that bonus check, it opened me up. And I think the problem with a lot of people in our community is the reason they can't see themselves making 10, 20, 30, 40,000 a month is because they never even had 5, 10, or 15,000 in their account.
Yeah.
Income tax.
Even, but that's sort of not even true because most people don't get 10,000 for income tax.
True.
So when I say those numbers, I mean people never physically seen that money in their account, sitting in their account, and able to touch it. Even if they made that illegal money, that it's not the same as the majority.
Yeah.
The majority of single Black people that are making money in this country still think that $20 an hour is a good wage to make money. And we know $20 an hour is nothing.
Yeah.
It can barely even buy your groceries for a whole month.
It's just facts.
So, and not to be putting people down or saying that, but I'm, trying to enlighten them for them to see that it's a lot more money that you could be making. When I started making $80,000 a month, I knew at this point that, I can go into the millions now.
And so now here's the conundrum of being presented with this factor now. Somebody asked me this the other day, and I won't say what I said, but I want to see what you guys would say to it. If everybody develops this mindset of we can make more, we can do more, whose role or whose job is it to keep somewhat of the structure that is had? If everybody on this planet cleans up their mindset and they're like, man, I'm going to be a coach, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be a this, I'm going to be a that.
We all know that's not going to happen, first of all.
We do.
It's unrealistic.
It is.
Because everybody don't want to be an entrepreneur. We gotta face that
and
fact.
It's work.
It's just fact.
You know what I'm saying?
It's work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and a lot of people, they don't want to be entrepreneurs. Can they still make extra money? Yeah, I believe so. I believe if you learn how to invest the money that you do make, you still could go out there and make some money.
Fact.
But when you say, does everybody want to do it? I think we are in a phase where everybody is trying to do it.
Yeah.
But I think that they can't weather the storm. They don't know that a lot of us, when we first got started as an entrepreneur, we didn't have no money. We was pulling money and doing stuff from places they wouldn't even imagine what we were doing. And we talking about some of us was living in cars, staying at girlfriend's house that we didn't like, just to get our business off the ground and have a place to stay and be able to take a nice shower and say, hey, I'm about to go out here tomorrow and do it again. We kept doing that for a long time before we even made $10,000 a month.
But you see how you brought that up just now? That's exactly what I want to hit right now.
Yeah.
So
he's not lying. I stayed in the projects, and when I told the people, my neighbors, even my mom, they couldn't see anything I was talking about. So first, it definitely is a mindset. And even when you're telling people, they like, this is so you talking crazy, or and that energy also can keep you from not going. It's just that I just knew I knew that it could. And, I probably talk to my cousin sometime and he'll be like, only place you can get, you have to provide a product or a service.
This cousin.
And the only thing that you can get money from is other people. So don't be afraid of people. People are the only thing gonna pay you, not no animal, not no whatever. It's, you know what I'm saying? So it's a trade. And to answer your question earlier when you just said, if everybody, what's the name up, then I guess we'll be trading. You have a strength that I don't have. So, or I might got some sugar. You might not got none. I might be having a sugar cane and I might want to say, give me $10,000. If they take the sugar off the market and I got sugar canes, we trading.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, because the interesting dynamic of it is the first currency that we ever used as everybody on this planet is seashells. We traded seashells back and forth, and that was the currency, and we just kind of did barter-esque kind of things. And so going back to what you said, if everybody did develop that mindset, it would just shift back into a trade society. But No, that's dope.
Yeah,
So
if I don't know how to draw,
yeah,
my daughter know how to draw.
Well,
She can put
and
her
if that
numbers
happens,
on it.
if that happens, it'll sink capitalism because capitalism need consumers
I do.
to even thrive and survive.
Hmm.
Without the consumers, they can't control the money.
Yep.
So, I believe that if you're an entrepreneur, you should definitely do it.
Hmm.
Even if it's just an idea or a hobby, get going. And if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, then it's other avenues to still make money. Have your job, or maybe have a side hustle, or have your job and start investing some of the money that you work for into other things to still build out you some cash flow.
Mm.
I mean, let's face it, you can't just have one stream of income no more. Every time I go to Kroger's, they keep saying $114. And I look at that basket, I be like, I'm confused on how this is costing $100.
Mhm.
When we know a few years ago, you can get a lot for $100, a few years ago. But that should be the what makes people move and say, I got to do something different. Or how many times you're going to get fired from that job and they're going to tap you on the shoulder and say your services is no longer needed. How many times you going to go through that psychological, warfare on yourself?
Mhm.
How long are y'all gonna keep letting these people control how much you can make?
Mhm.
How long y'all gonna keep letting them tell you, oh, I can't go to my son's basketball game because I gotta work? Like, that is the control that I say it's for some people, but it was never for me.
Mm.
Every job I've ever had, I've been fired from because I couldn't see myself following those people's rules.
So okay, so now that makes me, want to segue into you now in Atlanta and you decide to transition out of network marketing. What's going through your mind to be like, I can make a company, or I can make something that does more?
I just knew, it's so many people in that industry that desire to be number one.
Mm.
I never desired to be number one in that industry.
Mm.
I never cared about it. I knew I was good, but it wasn't the means to my end. I knew that I could do much more than what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that this was a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
And then, at some point, you got to come from under the tutelage of other people and go out there and soar and do your own.
Yep.
It's time for you to go and shine in your creativity and what you know how to do and whatever gifts God gave you.
Facts.
It has nothing to do with the other people. We worked together, we made money together, but now it's time for me to go, whether you're staying or not. So when I came to that conclusion, I said, I know I got something else to offer people, but I want to do it on my own terms.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked, we sat down one day and we talked about it. I said, but my thing with me doing it on my own terms, it has to be done with integrity. I don't want to have a product or a service that my people ain't getting nothing out of it. Mm. I want to make sure if I'm going to coach these people to millions, that I'm giving them the real sauce. I'm not making them sign up for a program and then a few months later, they still walk away with no type of business. We don't want to leave no entrepreneurs behind, so that's why we came up with the Bulletproof Entrepreneur.
And so what exactly does that mean, bulletproof? Why that?
Why that?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know what happened during the pandemic. A lot of people lost businesses. Business went out of business. People were literally starving with no money because they didn't protect themselves in the interim that something like that could happen, right? Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean that you got to protect your business. It has to be first set up legally, mm-hmm. right? You want to make sure that you got the right accounts in place so that, not only are you putting your money in the bank as you're making the money, but you got your high yield savings, you got your healthcare insurance account because you're an entrepreneur, you don't have no healthcare. You also want to, set up your IRAs, you want to set up your brokerage accounts, you want to have these things in place. So as you make money, you're able to put, let's say you don't know what you're doing. Okay, just go open an account, it's free. Mm-hmm. Take $100 and put it in there. Go see what stocks and how much they cost at the time. So if a stock is $1 and something, right now, how many stocks can you buy for $100? Mm. Just do simple math. Buy those stocks, right? And then every month have $150 come out of your account that's automatically going into your brokerage account, and so that you could buy more stocks and increase your portfolio. You're not going to get rich in 2 years, but if you keep on with what I'm telling you in the next 15 or 20 years, you'll be surprised what happens.
If I done it in I think we started making money. We started in 2015. If I would have done it by the time 2017, and then by the time the pandemic came, our our checks, this is before inflation, so our checks was probably like $10,000 a month, and that was me and the other two partners. So we were taking $30,000 a profit each month from the healthcare.
That was what sending them to the house.
Yeah, but our profit was the $30,000 that we would pay out monthly. Had I took maybe $2,500 of that, and I was hood rich. I mean, I had already bought my house. I think in Dayton at that time it was $25,000. Paid that off. I had a friend that had the dealership license or whatever. Had a K900. Paid that off. So what did I do? I went on trips. I did buy a couple more houses. So I'm not gonna say I didn't buy assets and stuff. But had I did those things, you know, that would have been compounded interest by the time 2020. I'm sure it would have been tight because at first we all freaked out and then it just would have shot up. But I wasn't even aware and not knowing. And I had an insurance person come to us and he would talk to us, but we didn't know. He would ask us about the Roth IRA and different things, and we just didn't know. And some people need they handheld. You know, so we were, again, ignorant bliss, and we didn't invest into any accounts. It could have been going right out of the business account. You know what I'm saying? Even outside of our stuff.
You didn't even know. Like, when I started that, man, let me tell you something. I'm a person that's put my people on. When I first did it and I got with my broker, and, you know, the company set up all my stuff, and I started, you know, doing it. I was telling everybody, hey, call these people, take $500 of that money you got, put it over here, and, you know, let them go ahead and, you know, start some mutual funds and stuff like that. People thought it was alien, you know. It sound like, you know, I don't know what that is, you know. But I go out to eat with these people and they spending $300, $400, and $500 out while we out, or they go to the club and buy a section for $3,500. So, you know, I look at that type of stuff, and when we say ignorance, I think it's not only ignorance, it's also immaturity. Because you don't see yourself in 30 years where you and your family gonna be. You only see yourself right now.
Yeah,
that's very immature, you know. So I started those accounts, started getting a dividend check every 3 months. A few people who listened to me started getting the checks every 3 months. And then when COVID hit and we all lost a lot of money, that was one of the things that kept it going. $3,000 a month, your rent $2,000. You could, you know, I ain't had no car, no, I had a brand new Mercedes paid off, but I wasn't stressed. And I know now, even what I'm doing now, to even do it even bigger on a bigger scale. So, you know, it's just about putting the people in the right place, get your business set up, protect your business, you know, get some other things running outside of your business than just the business. We started a tea and wine lounge, and it's under construction right now. And I told her 6 months ago, we got to have something outside of that lounge being built. You know, that mug gonna cost $100 or something thousand just to build. Let's start an online, you know, product to bring the money in while we waiting on that.
Facts.
So we started selling herbal tea because it's a tea and wine lounge, and it started booming quick. So now just imagine if you spending $100 or something thousand to get your lounge built, and you got a product that's still bringing you $40,000 or $50,000 in a month before it even open. Even if the store ain't doing good, the online sales will be doing so good that it'll level it out.
Yeah.
And you ain't closing no time soon.
And you kept it under the same brand?
It's the same thing, yeah. So this is what Bulletproof Entrepreneur teaches people, how to do stuff like that.
And so if you had to put in like a sentence, you know, if somebody asks, what is Bulletproof Entrepreneur?
Bulletproof Entrepreneur is a platform where, for anybody who wants to build a business, has a hobby, or already have an open business, we're going to teach you how to legally protect it. We're going to teach you how to get funded to build it. We're going to teach you the branding and marketing strategies to make the money. And then we're going to teach you how to scale it.
Got you.
That's what the Bulletproof Entrepreneur platform is all about.
Got it. And so when you say scale to what end? Product or service?
Whatever the business is doing. We're gonna help you scale the business. So if your business, let's say, go back to the tea and wine lounge, if you opening up a lounge and that's just the way it make money, what else and what other stream that we can implement in that one stream to have several streams?
And are you selling merch? Are you
okay? And how often do you work with people?
Well, it just depends on the coaching. We have group coaching.
Okay.
If you do one-on-one, then I do 6 months to a year with you.
Gotcha.
Or we have something for everybody.
Yeah.
Even if you got a little bit of money, you can't do much.
Yeah.
We got a whole group and community that you can join, still get nuggets and still get free stuff like free credit repair and stuff like that. But of course, you have to invest in yourself if you want to go further.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
that's called Mindset and Profit for whoever's looking. We on school. Join our free community. Everything is, so for me, I'm always invest in myself. So again, I go back to mindset. Everything is a mindset. And sometimes, do you trust this person, or how much, sometimes you might got some of the information. You just need a little bit. So it just depends where you at. Right now, my goal is to take 10, I don't need a big number, 10 people right now to the end of the year to take them to a 6-figure income, to replace their job, and then work in a community and they can pay their membership. That's outside of the 6 figures. So people that just kind of want to slow walk it, join a community. But that's my goal for this year.
Okay. You?
Same thing, at least help, 10 to 20 entrepreneurs, scale their business to 6 and 7 figures by 2026.
Got you. And how many have you helped so far?
I've helped hundreds of people.
Okay.
I've been in the game 15 years. I don't have single moms who lived in the projects, took them out and helped them make a 6-figure income. So this is not new to me. What's new to me is just doing it on my own.
Gotcha.
Without an already made platform.
Gotcha. So you're just doing it from your business now?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
And then I was always giving free advice. I'll just overworking myself. And then I realized, man, this is a service. I've helped people open their home care businesses. I've helped people get their independent provider license through Medicaid to go out there and make money for themselves. Just different stuff, to where I was realizing I need to put this in a program, because I'm actually giving a lot away from me and taking away from what I'm doing, my kids and so on, and implement a business. So. Okay.
So, why the dynamic of each other?
Why the dynamic of each other?
Yeah. If you could have it, you could have whatever partners you want in business.
For me, I'll go first. I know he probably got more to say. I'm a female, and sometimes you need the male energy. Just maybe in this room alone, nobody, y'all not here to protect me.
I am.
I don't know that.
Yeah.
So who?
I'm definitely here to protect. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If you in this room,
I think about I don't know, Taraja and Monique and different stuff like that.
Gotcha.
She got on TV, cried, and talked about that she was underpaid. When it's somebody that's in it for you, they're going to make sure certain things are in line and in your protection. We at Avis today, it was certain ways, the way they were handling me, that sometimes they need the male energy. Gotcha. And, that's how I look at stuff in business and partnership or anything, because I had a partnership with 3 women. And although we were killing shit, we didn't have that male energy, even when we were fighting. Yeah. So one of the partners' husbands did step in and try to, but he wasn't a partnership. Yeah. So, there was days I could say, just go to hell. Or there was days that I felt like, are you taking her side? But most of the time he would bring us to be like, I don't think y'all see what each other doing. Y'all need to write down and see what exactly each other doing and figure this out, because it might not be as deep as you think. So sometimes you just need that level and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I seen it. And like I said, we did an amazing job, but we could have used the male, energy.
Hey, it's your boy Big SK, man, the big step in the building. Anytime I throw in that drip, I come correct. This episode is coming to you by Billboard Bag. Become a walking billboard.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I built my whole career around women. Men, when it comes to building a business and team and selling products, women are the best at that. I'm telling you, I built network marketing for 15 years. I've seen it. It ain't that I'm just saying it. It's going to be some guys that's great. I'm one of them. But when we're talking about a group of guys, whether they white, black, Chinese, or whatever, the women sell better.
In network marketing.
In any type of big organization.
Yeah, when you go to clubs, who
It's
you
all-
buying your
it's-
bottle
it's-
from?
I mean, you can't.
Who you buying your bottle from? You
let-
want to
let me
see
tell you
him
something.
with a sign?
You're buying the bottle from the guy who got the club.
No,
but who put a lady in
but
the
it's
spot.
the women that's selling it.
It's the women that's selling it. That's why he
It's
put
the
the
wo-
women.
it's the
That's
women
why he
that's
put the women
selling
in
it.
place.
I don't know.
If it was men in there, you wouldn't buy it.
Okay. So then, what if we put this scenario? You go to Live, right? You've heard of Live before?
Never heard of it.
Yes, you have. It's in Fontainebleau.
I don't know.
You
So,
stay there.
I mean, I've never been there, but I've heard of it. So you
Yeah.
go to Live, and your idea is to go to Live,
Mhm.
correct? You want to buy a section before you get there. Now, if you have a male server offering you bottles, and you're going to get the section anyway, would you not buy the bottles?
I don't
It's
get
more
it.
women. I mean,
It's
I've
way
came
more
to
women
Miami.
doing that
I've
than
came to
males.
Miami since 2010.
No man wants to come to a club that all the men are selling them bottles.
Well,
That's
I get that dynamic of it. I mean, we're going into psychology, but
But
what,
the psychology is the
That's-
men
is the
get the
psychology
woman
of it.
to do it.
of course, but it's still the man's business.
The
Bro,
man
hold on, let me
gets,
let me
okay.
stop both of y'all real quick. You're talking to somebody who's been doing it for 15 years. Now, I'm not just saying it because I want to be hell for women.
Mhm.
I'm saying it from strictly experience.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I haven't had a W-2
What-
since 2011.
But what group of men have you worked with that it was all men that made all the money and sold everything?
It's not about what group I work with. We're going off of world statistics. When you look at
No,
leaders for
it
business,
is world statistics.
Yeah.
Any major group where they are selling products or they or they're moving a product.
Amazon, Apple, Microsoft.
Women are. I don't think you understand what I'm saying. I think you're looking at it as a whole.
Those are big organizations.
what who's selling for them?
Men,
What they selling?
everything.
Well, everything like what? Phones.
Phones, okay, and
It's
computers.
men and women.
And
if you
of-
walk
of
in the
course
Apple
it is.
store, it's men and women. But
Of
we're not
course.
talking about that.
We're not.
We're talking about moving a single product. If you started an organization today, I'll challenge you to $100,000. You go get you 50 men, and I go get 50 women, and I guarantee you, I'll sell you.
I don't think so.
I'm telling you.
I know you wouldn't.
Any top leader gonna tell you that the teams are gonna be built with women. You know why? Because you can't have too many alpha males trying to do the same thing at the same time.
Of course not.
But you can have you can get 50 single moms
Mhm.
who ain't got no man around and teach them how to do one thing, and they're gonna follow that man all the way to the top. You can't get males to do that.
It's in church. It's in
I can
prostitution.
understand.
It's in church, it's in prostitution,
I can
it's in
understand
everything.
that.
It's in
dynamic.
Chili's. It's in.
I
I
can
understand
understand
the
that
man is the
dynamic.
mindset behind it, but the women is the one who go out and do
It's
it.
always gonna be the women who push
but
it.
You have okay. So what I'm saying is the women will do it too. To say that the women will run it is not correct.
Who makes the most money in the music industry, the males or the females?
The males.
No, it's the females.
You can Google it.
It's the females.
Let's Google it.
We're talking about the teams, it's the females.
Let's Google it.
Google it.
We'll Google it. Okay. So
This show
wha-
getting
what's
good.
what's your question again?
I said,
the
who
most-
makes when we talking about groups and singing and all that, we ain't talking about no BGs and somebody from 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're talking about the last who's selling the most as far as they tours and all that, and why are those people selling? If the man is selling, who's pushing the man to who's buying the man product for him to do it?
What?
I don't want to don't put me on because I don't want to put these people water on there.
The street.
All you gotta do is ask them Swifties and them Beehive people.
That's fine. Hey. So, while the music industry has seen an increase in, so the question I typed was, what gender sells the most in the music industry? Is that a valid question?
I said, what gender? We talking about like, far as the tours and all that. Yeah, say what you gotta say.
Okay. While data indicates a significant presence of female artists and listeners in the music industry, male domination is still the top.
Who's buying the music?
The female artists' rise in popularity shows female artists are gaining ground in the music industry, with some reports indicating they outsell men on some charts, dominate in some genres.
So before you think you're right, that wasn't the question. The question was, if it's a male singer, who is the people that's buying the music and pushing him to the top?
The women. We're even taking pictures.
You're not answering the right questions.
$1,000 to take a picture with him,
Of
or
course.
Marion. It's
Of
us.
course. Okay,
it's
but-
us. So we the
okay.
consumers and we the sellers.
But they
in
don't
that.
only do it for men. The women do it for women too.
Of
Yeah, I
course.
said we the consumer and the
that's
sellers.
that's a consumption. We're not talking about consumption. We're talking about sales.
It's the same thing. We talking about teams.
I don't know. It's not.
It may be one man at the top, but that team is full of women.
I mean, I guess it's perspective.
I'm
It's
talking about
perspective.
from experience. I ain't talking about from no
I'm
perspective.
talking about experience too, because I
So
got
let's just talk about
company-
anybody in network marketing that's listening to this show, and make sure y'all type this man and tell them, "Nah, bro, it's not how it go."
I was in network
But-
marketing.
but-
I was in ACN. I was in
And you had a
Amway.
team full of men.
I had
No.
a team full of men that I hired because I brought them on. That was my downline.
How much money did y'all make?
I made a lot. I made 100,000 by myself in months. I got on stage in Vegas.
Without
I
no
I
women
did
on your
all of that.
team, all
without
men.
a single girl on my team. My upline
I've
had 2 women.
never seen
My
that in
upline had 2
network
women.
marketing. I've never seen that in network
It's
marketing.
it's on my
And we made
Facebook.
millions of dollars. I've never seen that in network marketing. Anybody's in network marketing, please type into this show. And because this is a
Yeah.
good topic.
Yeah,
I've
tap 'em
never
in.
seen that in network marketing in 15 years.
Tap them in. This was what, Dan? 2018.
It-
This
it-
is 2018.
Y'all ain't had no team full of all men. It was women on that
all
team
women.
too.
He did
I
in the team
promise.
because like he said, the consumption. He sent the men to the women because we always gonna buy too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that-
I'm gonna buy
I agree with you. Women consume 100%.
I don't know,
But
man.
it's the
I
sellers.
don't.
That's why I said it's
hey, if I
perspective.
ever was to do network marketing again, I'm going with my same formula.
But at the end of the day, what it still comes down to is I agree with you from the standpoint of a psychology. From the standpoint of overall, it's just not correct. Because my team right now, I have Zania as my social media manager. My assistant's a female.
You just
my
you just
CEO
don't you
is
just
a
don't you
female.
just don't work with a lot of
You know what I'm
women. I
saying?
work with a lot of
No,
women.
I just named off my women. In my
I work
company.
with a lot of women,
Yeah,
and
I'm
I'm
working
telling you
with them
now,
too.
like I'm gonna stand on what I say. Don't the women, if you want to build a huge organization in network marketing, it's going to be the women that's going to help you get there. Too many dudes ain't following no man or listening to what he say. I'm telling
Well,
you that
You see what it also is
it ain't happening.
but it does because we have different backgrounds. You know, I went to the Marine Corps. I deployed 2 deployments, and so I left. With
They
a certain
definitely ain't gonna
level
be
of-
following you then,
Of course,
because
that's why they follow.
you two this right here.
Nah. That's
But
why they follow.
Bulletproof.
I'll tell you, giving me the energy now, and I'm your guest. But I'm just saying, like,
but you got to understand, this is what made me 11 million since 2019.
and
it's on paper.
Same thing. You
Of
you know,
course,
but
it's on paper. And so
hey,
that's what I'm saying.
I'm just saying, I've worked with in a lot of those people in the industry. Did I have some top men on my team? Of course I did. But their team was full of women. All my leaders, it didn't matter who it was. It's going to be majority of black women on
Okay.
our teams.
And that's fine. I'm
You
saying
know?
that's fine. I'm just saying on the overall statistic, it's not moneyly possible.
It ain't. It's always with women. I don't care what the statistics say.
That's fine.
Even if the person is selling the women is the people that's buying it.
But you see, you know, I don't consider myself an alpha. I'm an omega.
I whatever you consider yourself, I'm just
Yeah.
going by the energy.
I get that.
And what
But-
I'm saying is,
But it's still perception.
but what I'm saying is, we can agree to disagree and move
Of
on to the
course.
next. But what I'm saying is, you know, just from I've been saying this for the last 10 minutes, my personal experience.
Of
I'm not
course.
talking about Apple
Yeah.
or these other people.
But you're
my
one
personal-
person.
I can only talk from my own experience.
And that's why I said it's perception.
You know, so
Is it not, Mila?
Oh, it definitely is. I guess
You
the question
know what I'm
was why the dynamic between the two. So
and I was
he
explaining it,
gave
and
the
you started
dynamic,
telling
and
me
then
it is not.
I gave you mine. I mean, maybe a woman can protect me, you know, vice versa. But that's what I see. I feel like yin and yang, it you know, it balance.
Of course.
I don't like right now, y'all being partners, somebody gonna have to figure out how to, you know what I'm saying? All right, let's get it. Or y'all gonna keep going, or somebody gonna say, screw it, I'm gonna build my own.
Mhm.
So, you know.
But
Or
you
a man
see,
come and tear it apart from a woman and say,
Where-
why you listening?
where
to
confusion
him.
comes in
Mhm.
is on the dynamic of money's not being made. Why I've never butt heads with anybody that's been in my companies that are males is because I let them do their job.
Mhm.
I hired you to do what you needed to do. There's no need for us to butt heads. And so it's never been a dynamic of, oh, I got to get in their face and be alpha. I've never had to do that,
Mhm.
whether it's a female or a male.
I mean, I only said
and what we left it at was
when
more
I
so
say
of
alpha,
like,
I
okay,
mean,
cool.
it's a general term. It's not saying that
Yeah.
me or you are alpha, because I don't claim no term. I'm just me.
Yeah, same.
But when we talk about males, somebody wants to have the bigger ego and stuff. That's what I mean when I say that.
And I don't want that. Dan could be my witness. I literally will run from the cameras. I tell them to say, you own the business. You own this building. Tell them that you run it. I don't care, because for me, my money is legacy and generation.
Yeah, in those groups though, it just it don't be as solid as that.
No, I get it.
I
get it.
So that's why I said But I was answering your question when you said the dynamics of men and women. That's why I said from my experience, I'd rather work with women.
Nah, for sure. I would rather work with women too.
Yeah.
On this side of the business, I have more women than I have men.
Mm-hmm.
But I just disagreed that women, make all the sales. My men right now still, even though I have more women, have made more sales. And that's just a statistical fact for me and for a lot of other companies that I happen to know.
You may not have the right women.
Oh, you're right. I may not, but I can remove myself from the equation, and I can bring companies who do have those different figures. And I'm like, okay, cool. On a majority of the companies that are running the world right now, that's just what it is.
Yeah. But in the majority of the world, our women is not a part of those companies. I'm only talking about these ones that we work with.
Fair enough.
In this industry,
Fair enough.
Black men or women ain't a part of that, so we can't even really judge or scale that. But when it comes to working with women, like to finish your question, I just think that I got a special place in my heart for women. I know that, a lot of times they don't get paid as much as us.
Facts.
I know a lot of times that, they say, oh, Black women are the most educated, person on the planet. I know they do that to deflect from what we do too. Black men may not go into the school at numbers that the Black women do, because you got to face a lot of us is in prison.
Yeah.
And a lot of us are entrepreneurs. We didn't go to the school route. We decided that we're going to go out there and make the money on our own. Yeah. So, when I listen to statistics, they all are swayed because they only got a small group of people and created a number. But I feel like, the dynamic of, I work well with guys too. I don't make a lot of men, help them make a lot of money. But, with women, I like to see them succeed. I like to see them, not think that, I got stuck with a baby. Oh, I can't pay my rent this month, or, blaming a man and because he ain't around, not knowing that, sometime in life that's going to happen. You can't show your children that you're that weak.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? So
it's a and I'm not trying to say this is what you're saying. I'm agreeing from a psychology, because I after the military, I went to school for psychology and arts.
Yeah.
Right. I dropped out because business started doing good. I said, cool, I'm not waiting for a PhD.
Yeah.
I'll do my own thing. What happens when it comes to the statistics of that is a single mom, especially, is emotionally different. And it's a lot easier to emotionally control somebody when it comes to life, business, whatever, than it is for a male figure who has that kind of bravado, like the hunger to go get it differently. But a mom understands, like, hey, and a female, because now we can go back to Adam and Eve days, the will to submit. She was born off of his rib. Mm-hmm. And so it's a lot easier to bring, as a Black man, to bring a Black woman into your business and her understand, like, hey, I'm not the head of this. You bring another male, regardless of color, there will be friction, whether it's a lot, whether it's a little, whether they think they're alpha or not, it don't really matter. But there's still a level of friction based off of who might take control, just off of gender, just off of role, society, household standards, whatever. They want to be the king of their house, and, they feel territorial about things. But, bringing a woman into your business, direction comes different, because that's the evolvement of time. We've gone from where we're going from the baby boomer time frame now into a different time frame of making money. And from that baby boomer dynamic, you still had women that did work, but we come from an older system where, the woman stayed at home and the man went out to go work and did all of that stuff. Agreed, right?
I don't believe that. I mean, our women always was out in the fields working with us.
Yeah, I just think it's balanced to me. Like I really feel it's balanced, but to each our own. Fair. Or whatever. But
I think the women weren't given all the opportunities they could have had.
Yeah, and we have different, no matter if, like you said, you might be a better seller or whatever, no matter what it is, you have a strength that I don't have, and I have a strength that you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I could even, even listen to y'all dynamic. I could put my perspective on it, and y'all may, be like, okay, what she's saying, she got a point or whatever. But I just have something that y'all don't have. And I feel like when those two things come together, whether it's cousin, whether it's me and you making a partner, whether it's me and my husband, it makes it work in a different way. And just like a man, when a man I'm like, oh man, I never thought of that. Men generally that I've ever had in my life, they always turn me up. They always turn me up. Like I might be like, oh, I'm too, humble, or I don't want to wear that and this and that. And they like, nah, you got to put the splash on it. So I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. But I think I think black women have been working hard, just as hard as we have, coming up in this thing. I think, they the only race of people who work side by side with us at all times. So, for us to even think that, they can't do something, or they're in the same category with those other women. I mean, it's just night and day to me, when I see them working, I don't just see them working to do what I say, because I got a different environment on my teams. I put them in position and I let them do them.
Yeah.
Without being so involved in it. I'm just there for guidance and direction. I'm not going to tell them what to do, because I don't like arguing with women. Because women can get very, on you, and if you give one too much attention, the rest might, get a little jealous. So you got to have that temperament as a leader to say, I'm going to let them do, I'm going to give them the guidance. I'm going to show them how to do it, and I'm getting out the way.
Okay.
So that's what I want to reiterate what I was saying when I said that. So yeah, I think that I think women can do way more than what we think they can and can't do. I've seen it.
So is that why we are, what was the question? You asked,
bulletproof?
No. You said, why this dynamic?
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah, that's what I want to close the actual question with that. I got my homeboys, I got my brothers, I got my cousins, and we do work well together. But it's a different thing when you work with women. Whether some people got you work with your mom. My grandmother, she did Mary Kay, had us, as her test dummies. My grandmother also was the biggest drug dealer in our city. So I've seen. When I say that, I've seen women from a different perspective than a lot of people have. So
I think what I meant for that question too was more so like, why Mila?
Why Mila? Because Mila's a dynamic woman, not just because she's my cousin. I'm 7 years older than her.
Gotcha.
So, at one point when I was babysitting all the kids, my Aunt Donna throw her in there too. But she's always had a spark in her that she wasn't afraid to take risks. That's what I liked about her.
Gotcha.
Versus working with other family members.
And then why T. Anthony?
His art and craft and the leadership and protection. I feel safe. And I feel like I can be me. Like, even if I screw up or any of that stuff, there's definitely coaching and mentoring in it. And, you don't sometimes even want to take it back to when we taking it out of the cousin role to the mentor, like, man, I screwed up. But just being able to, he's allowed me that safe space.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, there's always two sides to it. Some people say family business can never work.
I've learned that too. Stuff. You can't work with everybody. You can't bring everybody into your stuff. Like what y'all got going, you can't go get every family member and bring them into your stuff.
100%. I don't got none.
Right. So, I feel like you have to pick and choose your people.
Yeah.
It don't have to just be your family either. It could be somebody else, but you got to know what you got and what you're working with. What things that I don't like doing, like she don't mind setting up programs and.
Okay, so yeah, this is what I was looking for. Like, what are some things that you like physically present in the partnership, and then what are some things that
he's
Mila
detailed.
might really
I'm not
do?
detailed.
How do y'all
all.
feed off of each other, really?
So let's
task-wise, skill-wise.
I guess look at it like this. So, she's a huge personal development person.
Got you. Okay.
Okay, I'm more of a abstract, creative mind.
Okay.
So
like logistical creative?
Creative as in, like how to brand the person, how to market them, how to, you know, how to make the business look a certain way, how to, you know, what strategy we should use to do X, Y, and Z. That's more me. Like, but to set up a program or that's not me.
Okay.
I'm not gonna. She could set up the program. She's gonna write the books.
So structural.
Yeah, she and personal development, and you know, being able the way my delivery could be scary to some people, but I'm actually really, you know, laid back in whatever I do. But if I she could be the softer person and deal with people more. You know,
I can understand that.
You know, like I'm more like, don't bring it to me unless it's a big problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, y'all need to talk to Mila. I have no idea what's going on here.
And
you
I
know,
could fix it without it getting to him.
You know, like stuff like that. You know, like just imagine you got a wife.
I got a girl.
Okay, yeah, girl, wife. Just imagine sometime your girl not gonna bring stuff to you unless it's something that it needs to be brought to you. She probably handle that small stupid stuff, you know, before
if somebody trying to talk to her at the bar,
yeah,
unless they go crazy, she's not gonna bring it to my attention.
Because it's just not needed.
100%.
You know, and a lot of women know how to. Yeah, you know, and so in business, women are the same way. You know, how you do one thing is how you do it. You know, everything. Sure. So me, if it's time to talk about deals and talk about numbers, I'm gonna give you strategies and numbers. Right, I got it down to a T in my head. And then, you know, and the creative part, you know, the branding, the marketing, the look of the business, you know, how it's sold and stuff like that. I got all that, the coaching, you know, part of it, and she does everything else.
What's up, guys? My name is Mila, and I'm one of the Bulletproof Entrepreneurs. Are you having trouble with structuring your business or finding funding? Listen, I have something for you. It is called the Bulletproof Secret Hacks. To learn more, click the link below.
Got you. So I think I understand a little bit more of the dynamic. You know, you mentioned earlier women are going to be a seller. So she's the seller, you're the closer.
Yeah.
Even though you can sell and close.
Yeah. Yeah, she definitely can do that. You know,
like don't forget to ask for the money, Mila.
You know what I'm saying?
You've done I understand you're doing a good deed, but rule number 1, don't forget the money.
And you know, whether it's your girl, sister, or business partner, we got to learn not to beat up on women too.
Facts.
Like we got to know that we think different from them. So every time they do something like, okay, if we drive and we got to get to the airport, we about to miss the plane, and she forgot her license, most dudes start going crazy. I just say, hey, just turn around and hurry up and get it. You know, I got my emotional intelligence enough to know that, you know, you gotta service them in a way just like, you know, in males, like how we have to be serviced. Like they'll get my bags or say, hey, I already put your stuff in the car. Like that's just stuff women just do with I forget everything.
He's so right.
So do you have like wife, kids?
No, not right now. I'm single. I mean, I have no kids, but you know, I've been in several relationships. But right now, I'm single, and I don't want no relationship.
Got you. Okay.
You know, until I get this thing off the ground, that I got time to pay attention to somebody.
Makes sense.
So I'm smart enough to know that too, that I don't want to get distracted by people.
Okay.
You know, but when I'm in a relationship, yeah, I always, you got to be sweet to me. I don't like hard women.
Okay.
You got to be sweet to me. I ain't into the arguing and all that craziness. Fair enough.
So I do wanna go into the next part, but that made me think of something else real quick.
Go ahead.
And so if you ever came into the dynamic of another female CEO, you know, sometimes, you know, a lot what gets represented a lot is they're uncontrollable.
That's what he wants.
Or you can't, like she's too bossy on her own, and so she's not gonna have enough time for you.
I love it. Like you talking about as far as a relationship?
Yeah.
Or I'd rather deal with another entrepreneur. You know, I think if you the type of woman that knows how to be a boss in your own right, but you still know how to be a regular woman.
Yeah.
You still could be sweet and courteous and still be a boss to me. Some dudes get offended or intimidated by it, but I don't. Like I said, the kind of women that I came from, that's what I know. So we, you know, and I seen the men they dealt with. They have to be some strong men to deal with the women in my family.
Yeah.
You know, so like I said, you got to create the atmosphere for both of y'all to grow.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that's just do you think that that's really like a true statement? Or do you think people just already feel that way just because it's intimidation? Because like sometimes people ask me why I'm not with someone in different stuff like that. And I could say like maybe 10, 15 years ago, I probably was hurt and, you know, all weird up and stuff. But Now it's really, I just don't put energy towards it. But a lot of times that I've talked to people or dated people, they've actually came back and told me, I just didn't have my shit together. And it wasn't anything you was doing. So, you know, like when I see like stuff on the internet and different stuff like that, I'm like, I don't know if that's true, even though they're saying like, you know, a girl that got her own stuff, she wants you to submit to her. She don't want you to do this, that, this, and that.
So I don't agree with that personally. So
Yeah.
there's this course that I made, and I've presented it on stage and stuff a couple times to my students, and it's called Perception is Not Reality.
It ain't.
Because I had to learn that in myself as well. Like what I go through or my experiences or what I think on the world in general, you know, it's not the world in general.
Yeah, that's just your
you know?
people. So like when people say all black women or all black men, to me, it's like 9 fucking types of us, right?
Exactly.
So how that's your experience that you had with a person that you liked, or like maybe you get someone that's very average looking and then what society called beauty. And then the guy is like, I want her to go 50-50. What society already told her she don't need to go 50-50. She's a trophy person.
Yeah.
So you know what you're giving up, and she know that that's what she's offering.
Kind of people.
Facts.
I mean, I think men, we know that already.
Yeah.
But some of them, you know, like not trying to, I know we on mindset or whatever, but
this is part of mindset.
The passport bros and different stuff like that, they like, you know,
like
you girls, you girls want our money, this and that. I'm like, you know what you trading off, versus like, I feel like I'm a beautiful black woman, but I'm also strong and different stuff like that. So I might not have a Kim Kardashian look, but then the person is saying, hey, I want you to want less. Unless you about to raise up your mindset or something, but I don't want less. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I'm, you know, if you falling or anything that you need, I'm going to be able to step right in. Yeah. Right. But then even if you step right in, sometimes men feel less than if you have to step in. I've dated someone where they messed up and I'm like, okay, I can help you. And then it was like, oh no, get away.
I feel like that's emotionally unintelligent men.
I go back to the immaturity.
Yeah.
So, you know, like a lot of us guys, and we all been there, been younger, and we look back and we're like, man, we could have probably handled those situations a little bit different, but we didn't know. And for the ones that's, you know, 40 plus and still doing that, I always say, man, you didn't live enough life, because if you lived enough life, it will dictate how you move the older you get. You know, like you've been in the military, so you've seen things. I haven't been in the military, so I haven't seen things that a military person would see, but you know, it's things that I've seen that a person may not have seen.
Fact.
And so we learn from two different perspectives, but somehow we both matured, you know, equally almost, you know. But when it comes to women, I just think like a woman will allow you to not, I mean, not train her like an animal, but a woman will allow you to mold her if she feel like your leadership is up to par.
Yeah, I always tell people that. I always say, you know, I just actually had a guy ask me that a couple of weeks ago. He said, you seem like the, I don't know, whatever, A type of woman. I said, what do you mean? I think we were talking about, what's those people that be in the bed that get dominated or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Like a dom.
And I was asking him, like, you ever thought about that? But I think in his mind, he was saying, like, it seemed like you would want to do the whooping. I was like, not necessarily. And he was like, well, it seemed like you that type of woman. And I was like, no. He said, so would you let a guy lead you? I said, yeah, I got to know that he ain't lead me into a brick wall.
So you you can switch. Which is what I think most people don't feel like people can do, both on both sides.
You know,
of the
you
fence.
gotta let me lead him. Like if he come in the kitchen just because he a man and rah, if he can't bake a cake, let me lead in that.
Facts.
You understand what I'm saying? But just like he's actually a good cook. I know how to cook, but when he around, I'm not gonna hold you. I don't be thinking, oh, that's a woman's job. Let me get up and cook. I just sit back and be like,
the men in our family is like master cooks, like.
And I learned how to cook.
And we didn't have those roles in our family, like where only the woman cooked and cleaned.
I don't think roles in general exist.
No, we didn't.
If it needed to get done, they just
do it.
Yeah, that same guy, he asked me like, do you know how to cook and clean? I'm like, yeah, of course. He said, well, you just seem like a person that's on the road. And I'm like, I am. He was like, you sound like you eat out a lot. I was like, when I'm not at home, but truthfully, I know how to cook some stuff that you couldn't even imagine. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like anything I put my mind to, I'm good at. I'm a good juicer. I'm a good salad maker. Like whatever I decide I want to do, I can do what you can imagine, but is that the role you need or what? And then he starts saying like, but it probably was a little bit of intimidation, like, well, you just seem like you gone all the time. And I was like, if there was a guy here, maybe I wouldn't have took on this stuff. But the problem is I've learned how to love me and do the stuff that I love. And, me and my person will have to at some point compromise, like what's the end goal and meet me there.
I think on both sides, everybody still needs reassurance at the end of the day.
You gotta have that from your person.
Yeah.
You gotta have that. Like, men can't even operate without it.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? If a woman is not constantly reassuring him, not even just reassuring and reaffirming him, like this is it. This is your place. I'm here to help you, this, that, and she doing it in her own love languages. If she's not doing that, we're probably gonna go mess with something else.
Got it.
So and like I said, women we gotta create the spaces for them to feel good about being a woman, being feminine, and allowing them to still lead in the areas that they strong in. If my woman is stronger than me in math, who am I to make her submit to me? And I'm not good at math. I'm about to listen to what she say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I think men, we still could listen to what they say. And if it's something that, if your woman's good in business and contracts, why are you stopping her from operating those gifts when it's going to benefit you and her?
Facts.
So I think that's what I mean when I say we got to create the space for them to flourish and be them.
No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. No, this was good. This was good because this type of, and this is why I do things this way.
Yeah.
Because you get to really understand people's personality.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This isn't the podcast that you watch to figure out what y'all business fully is and what you dive into. But this is where people get to see a little bit more about your personality, what you like, what you don't like, how you feel about things. Exactly. And so that's why I always feel like, it should always have something to refer people to, like, hey, if you want to find out more about me, go check this out.
Yeah. And I think, we've done a lot of podcasts and some of them it's, it ain't necessarily for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But we on a promotional tour and we don't get to pick.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? So, and we make the best of it. We ain't had nobody that was, like doing anything wrong to us or anything, but some platforms, may not be for me, like my integrity, what I stand for, where we're trying to go. And we don't knock it. Everybody got to do whatever their lane is, But I think to me, women and male relationships in business is probably some of the best ones if they allow it to be.
Facts.
We know a lot of us guys, we can get controlling on ends, and it's a lot of women who can be controlling
Very
too.
True. And the other side of that is a lot of guys sometimes, unfortunately, get caught up in mixing personal and business.
No. That's maybe when I was younger. I remember at a job before I did that, mess with somebody at the job and I was the manager and they wasn't, and it turned bad, So I learned my lesson young with that kind of stuff. But I always, even on my big teams in network marketing, that was one of the things and discretionary things I talked about with my girls. Don't ever mess with any of these guys in this business.
No fraternization.
He sure did. I think I have been in something like that before though, but I don't know how I actually got into that situation.
In this business or something else?
In another business,
okay.
but I seen that the person was, I feel like they didn't want me to pass them, so they were.
That's common.
They were giving me little bits of information that I could have been, like, it took me to have to put pieces together.
Wow.
And I could have been shot up, but I was so confused. And actually I was a little hurt for a second. Like,
they want to see you do good, but not better than them.
Yeah. And giving me these little bits. And I'm like, maybe the other people you dated,
especially when you messing with them, like, the guys may want to keep you at bay, like right here, because, how's this going to look if I bring you up?
And then you pass them.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's the mindset. I
mean, it's happening anyways, but
it's always going to happen anyway. Yeah. When you destined for it, it can't be stopped.
I tell people you can help me get ahead or you can watch me get ahead.
Facts.
And in that situation, I actually, he tell me sometimes I act like a blind to stuff. He like, you always act like you don't know if somebody like you. In that situation, I really didn't know. So it was like up in the air. And then the pass came. And then I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But I still wanted the business.
You was focused on the money.
But I didn't know that was going to happen. And then it slowed it down. I'm like, oh, man.
That's what you call tunnel vision right there.
I screwed up and then I'm watching him go and I'm like, why you ain't tell me this? Why you ain't tell me that? And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get to you in a minute. What what stuff to buy? Index, oh, yeah, the market about to sink. I'm going to let you know. I was just like,
dang.
Okay, but you know what? I'm going to figure it out. So you're going to watch me.
Yeah, I definitely think you should keep those separate.
Yeah.
You know,
and it's a lot, but man,
it can get real messy, man.
It can, man. T Anthony, Mila, it was real. This was a fun podcast.
Yeah,
before we even knew it, an hour flew by, and just understanding your personalities or dynamics more, because that's how I am. I'm more of an empath, and like, if I got to do business with somebody, it's not what you're selling to me. It's not what your product or service. It's like, okay, cool. Do I understand what you stand for? Yeah. And that's why even on here, I like to challenge people on some of their morals. Yeah. And when they stand strong on their morals, I'm like, okay, cool. They got it going on, because some people will fold. Yeah. They'll fold just to get you to make the sale or get you to do whatever you want them to do, and that's not real integrity to me.
I think that you got to have that. Like, if we all was yes men to each other, it would just be a weird world. Like, if everybody thought the same and agreed to everything, it's okay to agree and disagree. Like, we shouldn't fall out because we didn't think the same.
Facts.
So I think, especially in our community, it's bad. You say one thing wrong to a person, they start saying stuff like, that man is dead to me, and all this, and you be like,
they want to fight.
Come on, bro. Like,
it's like, what?
We just didn't agree on one thing. Facts. We was cool before that.
Facts.
So I think that it's a healthy environment, when Black people can sit down and have these educated conversations and then just come to a conclusion like, hey, sis, I heard what you said. Hey, bro, yeah, and then, we put that stuff together and then everybody gets something out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I don't see podcasts where these people be fighting, and I'm like, I would never be on a show doing that with people.
There's no need.
It's just an interesting point of view. What I feel like is, and how he said I'm on personal development, I really feel like no one knows enough to be a pessimist, and it's no one way. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4.
Facts.
1 + 3 is 4.
Facts.
So, even when we talk about religious, any of that stuff, like whether a person call it Allah, God, Jehovah, Buddha, you know what I'm saying? It's still some type of higher source being. So no one knows enough. And that's an interesting point of view.
100%.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate y'all, taking the time to come on here and be vulnerable to the level that you were vulnerable, because that's what it is. It's like you're sharing a side of you that they probably can't go on Instagram and just hit a video and see what you stand for or what you don't stand for. So, if people wanted to tap in with you and learn more about you or your structure or your business, where could they do that at? Where could they follow you guys?
Absolutely. So you can follow me at the Brand Boss ATL on Instagram. We also have the Bulletproof Entrepreneurs page with the Ness. And YouTube, we have the Bulletproof Entrepreneur YouTube, and our podcast is coming soon in May. And
Mila? You can find me at MyLove 2004. That's MILOVE 2004. City Span Solutions. That's on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube, Mindset and Profit, School, Mindset and Profit, Facebook, My Hall, and TikTok. We out there. And then also we have a book that's on Amazon. That is The Bulletproof Entrepreneur. If you already like a self-starter person, you got all the stuff in there. It has the links that we help people, guide them through the school or through the group coaching, how to get started if they don't have a business set up at all. We have all those links.
Y'all be surprised how much free stuff we give away.
And I was just about to mention that too, because at the end of our show, what we always do is we ask people who have something to offer, service or product, if you're willing to give at least 1 to 3 items away to somebody that watches this, because we feel like if you invested your time is one of the biggest currencies right now. If you made it this far, we'll pop the word up somewhere on the screen and they'll send us a DM or whatever. But anything that you can offer towards them,
Absolutely. We
and they'll tap in.
first thing we offer is a free community.
Mhm.
So you definitely can join the community. And we also have we give away free templates to, restore credit. We give funding tips, and we give a free workbook.
So text the
build your
word
business.
bullet. We're gonna have to give you the number.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
you can text the word bullet and we'll know, in our system what's going on.
Perfect. So there you have it. Make sure you text the word bullet when you see the secret word pop up on the screen. You know how
Oh,
it
yeah.
goes. And listen, this was another amazing episode of Attractive Mindset. And trust me, you want to like and share this with somebody that you know. You never know who needs to understand this information. Meet new people, get your business out there. But it's your host, Moneybag Rich. And as we always say, we look good, we live good. Life is good. Talk to us. We talk back, and we out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.